Today, I will share an update about the OCL AI Mapper. Some of you might remember, a couple of months ago, we started looking into content management automations. For the simple reason that today, when you go from the paper forms that you have in facilities to OpenMRS tree forms, metadata, and configurations, there are still many steps in between that takes a lot of time, a lot of manual steps that can translate into days and sometimes weeks of work. One of those steps, which is not an easy one, but an essential one, is the content and concept mapping to international code. I can give you an example where you have a form in your facility with some questions like, has the patient sugar issues, for example? Can answer yes, can answer no, can be a boolean. And then maybe in another facility where the patient will go, the question will be sugar issues or sugar disease. And then in a different country or facility, it might be even a different language. So it's really difficult to actually know that this is about a diagnosis, what is the international code for that, and to have a common language. And that's why every questions, every metadata, every answers will be mapped manually by the team designing those forms to an international code. This way, the question, has the patient sugar issues, could, for example, be diabetes type 2, and then an international code. This way, we all speak the same language, which means that we can also exchange data between facilities and even reuse the forms that we built between us. Because if we have the mapping, it doesn't matter the UUID that we have in the forms. We can still reuse those JSON schema for OpenMRS tree. And mappings is also essential if, for example, we want to have clinical decision support. Because if we have an international code for mapping, for the diagnosis, and then we have a code for the medications and a code for the procedures, then we have a way better picture of the patient condition, and we can also make better recommendations. Same applies for analytics, research, everything, every content that we have about the patient is important to be mapped to something. So what we did a couple of months ago, actually last July, we put together a few scripts in Python and using fuzzy matching to automate that step a bit. And so, for example, with 1600 concepts in mental health, it took a few minutes to find the potential matches in international database. So we had about like 40% good matches, which is far from perfect, but still saved a lot of time. So we partnered with CIEL, which is the open source interface terminology, which means that it's a source, like a database that allow you to map to international standards. And you have multiple ones, like LOINC, SNOMED, ICD 10, 11, and CIEL is doing that job to mapping them together. So you, when you have a specific concept in your facility, you point them to CIEL, and then you know what will be the equivalent in the international standard. Also, no matter the country where you are. We also partnered with OpenConceptLab, which is OCL. Don't mix them up, it's easy, but it's not the same. OCL is a global good platform online for terminology management. And so we took a few use cases from CIEL and MSF, like forms from MSF, to build a new version to this matching tool using AI. And that's what I want to share with you today. So we are still in the MVP, aiming for a public release around June, July. But today we have a first API that is ready, and we have a UI also that is being tested and benchmarked these days. Also, all that is living under the OCL Global Good, because we don't want to duplicate solutions and products. So everything will be available under OCL, OpenConceptLab. So let's jump into the UI for me to give you a small demo. So when you arrive in the UI, you will be able to upload a spreadsheet or a CSV file with the list of concepts that you want to map with the international codes and standards. And here I will take the example of a list of lab tests that my colleague Alexis, who is implementing OpenMRS in Burundi right now, is trying to map against the international codes. So let's try that to help him on the project together. So first option is to map the columns. You can customize the mapping between your spreadsheet and the fields we have in the OCL vector database. Here we'll just keep the name. And then the next step is to choose how you want to auto-match. First option is a classic search like a fuzzy matching with the generic Elasticsearch matching. And the second one is the semantic search, which is the AI workflow using language model, which also it's interesting to note that it is not using cloud, LLM, or third-party API. Everything is running on local language model in the server, but you can also run it locally on your machine or on your own infrastructure offline. So let's pick this one, which is also helpful if you have different languages in your spreadsheet, like French, Swahili, Arabic, English. The AI will help us to translate them and find the right candidates in the international database. Next, we will choose the source. In our case, for the demo, it will be CIEL, but you can also choose your own organization. So for example, if I pick MSF, and tomorrow I have new forms to create or new metadata to add in an implementation, I can use the tool to tell me if I already have concepts. So this way I don't duplicate concepts, I don't create new ones, and I reuse more of what I already have in the organization, or even maybe between implementers. But here for the demo, I will just go with CIEL and use the latest version. All right, so let's start the automatch. Here we go. In just a few seconds, we have the 70 lab tests that Alexis is planning to use in his project that have been mapped, and they have found mapping candidates. So let's take, for example, CRP, C-reactive protein. You see, we have found one really good match in CIEL, so the 161500. And normally, the team building the metadata and the forms will every time for each of the concepts go in CIEL and try to find the right one. But here you see the tool helped us to find the right one, the 161500 with the synonyms, translations, international codes for LOINX, NOMAD CT here. So, and if I'm not convinced, I'm not happy with the candidate I see as a top one here, I can also see the top 5 candidates that the tool retrieved for us, and between, for example, the test or the lab test. If still I'm not happy with the results, which is possible because we are still tweaking and improving the matching tool, you can propose new ones, a new concept to match with, or you can even manually search for a concept in different targets. But I'm not a clinician, but let's say that this one is a good one. So I will approve this one, move to the next one. If I take alkaline phosphatase, for example, say, okay, to check, I'll leave a note. And then let's say this one, actually, let's say that this one is not good, I can reject. So you get the point, you can really take mapping decisions while you review the content. Once you're done, you can simply download the spreadsheet that you initially uploaded, and then you will see all the matching candidates listed with your original concepts and also the decisions that you've made in the UI. So all the candidates we had in a few seconds will be here, plus all the decisions you've taken, the notes you had, and if you rejected something, for example. So as an idea of how much time we saved, Alexis on the project right now, for about 2,000 concepts he had for lab tests, diagnosis, procedures, it took him less than 2 days alone to go through the concepts and map them to international standards and CIEL. So it saved him a lot of time. And same for MSF, we are building new forms these days in maternity, nutrition, family planning, PNC, and the tool already saved us so much time. So that's it for the demo. And before I wrap up, I invite anyone interested in this project or in the tool itself to go on the link mapper.madero.org, where you will be able to fill out a small form to join a waiting list and be part of the early users and tester of the tool, so that we can improve it before we have the public release in a couple months. If you are interested in content management terminology and OpenConceptLab, I also invite you to join the OCL Slack channel that is available on OpenMRS Slack. And also many thanks to the squad members, so John, Sunny, Joe from OCL, and Andy from CIEL, and Borg from OpenMRS. Thank you so much, everyone.